Hey there, welcome to Sequentially Yours, Initially Mine. This is a show where I look over this week's number ones and tell you which ones you can keep to yourself and which ones you should bring home and share with everybody. Alright, so let's jump right into things here. But actually, no. Before we start, let me just point out my shirt. This is in honor of David Bowie and Alan Rickman. I think it's the most appropriate sentiment we can all feel, considering the loss of these two wonderful entertainers. Both of which have had their connection to comics. You can look it up yourself, but trust me, it's kind of cool. Alright, so let's start looking into the number one, shall we? Spirit Leaves. This is by Rossi Gifford, both written and art. And while I will not say that it is bad, I will say that it is just about what I expect from a writer-artist in most cases. Now, don't get me wrong, writer-artists can be very, very talented. That being said, often they come from from the art side, from the artistic tradition of things, without a whole lot of backing and writing, and that's sort of what we're getting here with Spirit Leaves. The art is phenomenal on this, really clever, really interesting, really different, and I like the art quite a bit. What falls apart, though, is the story. It is such a classic monomyth as to be essentially indistinguishable from anything else. These characters aren't really developed other than telling us roughly where they're from and getting a general idea of their personalities, but that's really about it. And the thing that gets me is that there's a point where it actually just explains the plot. They actually explain the plot twice, but in the beginning it tells you what's going to happen. And then, as we go through it, I have an idea. Hear me out. You want to prove that our tribes are right? Let's work together to find this beast, demon, whatever you want to call it, and we'll split it. You can take the head, as you are the further away, and present it to your herd, so I can show the body to my tribe. That's the whole... It's two people working together to kill... You've just said what it is. And there's a lot more very obvious dialogue in here. What basically can't be told visually is just exposited. And that doesn't make for a really compelling work. So, Spirit Leaves is not bad, but so far Chapter House Comics hasn't amazed me yet with most of their work. I'm hoping that something really unique is going to come out that is also really good. So, next. Surviving Megalopolis. This is the sequel to Gail Simone and Calafiore. What's his first name? J. Calafiore. I don't know what the J stands for. But this is Leaving Megalopolis' sequel. Leaving Megalopolis was a graphic novel that was about... Megalopolis was the safest town in the world because it had all these superheroes, and then suddenly all the superheroes went crazy and became supervillains. It was an interesting concept. What we're getting with Surviving Megalopolis is sort of the flip side of that, where we are seeing the beginnings of superheroes rising again in Megalopolis. We still have the same characters. One thing I will say that I like about this a lot, especially from the writing department, is I like the fact that all of these villains are not the same villain. There are distinct character traits and personality traits that are separate between them. And I love that about the writing here. Where it all falls apart, though, is that since we really don't have a motive for them, everything they do is just done to be done. It's the problem with any concept of turning somebody evil. Eventually, they're evil for evil's sake, and they don't really have a motivation per se. And that's sort of where this falls apart. The writing is good otherwise. The characters are interesting. The art is spectacular. I really like the art on this. But I really need to see a little bit more in order to be fully behind this the way I would have been leaving Megalopolis. Lucifer, number 1 from Vertigo. This is a Vertigo Essentials. This is just the first book in the old Lucifer one. The new Lucifer is fantastic. If you read the old Lucifer, this is the first book. It's fantastic. Trust me, if you like Sandman, you'll like this one. Read it. The Adventures of Luna the Vampire. Alright, guys. Imagine, if you will, that somebody took a Tumblr post and gave it comic book life. That is what The Adventures of Luna the Vampire is. It is a gigantic internet meme thrown together. I had trouble reading through it because really it was... Whenever you see conversations that are shortened to their essentials for comedic effect, like you do in memes online quite frequently, that is the actual dialogue in this book. The art is... to call it ugly is to miss the point. I mean, I normally save the screenshots for... I usually excuse me. I normally save these screenshots that go up here for the book that is the good one for the week, or the best one for the week, but yeah, just take a look at this. What am I looking at? Why is that even there? That doesn't make sense. Stop. Put that away. Put that away. Oh, man. And I want to give it credit for what it does well, which is that it does address interesting topics in a fun way, but the focus is so much on the fun that it forgets the interesting part a lot. Man, it's... The thing is that, alright, if you have, let's say, a webcomic can be very good. Webcomics are comics and they're wonderful, but let's imagine that you had a lazy webcomic. That basically you were just making a comic to be memed. That is what this is. Don't buy it. Alright. Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, number 0. Normally I do number 1s, but we'll do a number 0 on this. Blue Ranger was always my favorite. I'm a Billy fan from way back. So I got that cover, but there's a cover for all of the main Rangers. Plus I was told that there was like a 1 in 50 Green Ranger variant and a 1 in 100 White Ranger variant. Suffice to say, my comic book shop did not get those, and even if they did, they would have been sold out long before I got there, and probably out of my price range. Alright, so they're trying to kick off a new Mighty Morphin comic series, and yeah, it's not bad. We're treading over the space in between the Green Ranger and the White Ranger saga again. Rita Repulsa is in this a little bit more as sort of a ghost in the back of Tommy's brain. And that's an interesting way of doing it, but again, we've been over this territory so many times. I don't need to see this story again. I watched it when it first aired. I've seen fan fiction, I've seen flashbacks, I've seen all sorts of ways of covering this one story that people love, admittedly, but we're done with it. Tell me something new. Give me something different. Tell me, even if you want to go back to the Mighty Morphin days, how about a story arc that happens in between things somewhere? There's room. It's very easy to do that. But telling this one story again just is not helping at all. Bulk and Skull are in this, but I don't see their point. About the only thing I really liked is at one point Trini saves the day using her Zord without being part of the Megazord, which, hey, it's good to see them using the kind of constituent parts of the Megazord. But otherwise, yeah, Number one had better be a lot better than this. Alright, now we're starting to get into the stuff that I really, really liked. Not the winner for this week, but still, Gutter Magic. This was clever. A nice urban fantasy story that really does a good job of taking the alternate history route and working with it. I'm seeing a lot of elements that are used in other places in here, but used in an effective way. For example, the split between sort of magic users and non-magic users that often comes up. For a poor example of this done, look at the D&D movie. But with Gutter Magic, they do it well. That magic users do have a sort of pride of place, but it is not so strict as to be an aristocracy of sorts. The art on this, especially with the use of magic, is gorgeous and really well done. It reminds me a lot of Doc Strange in the best way. Some of the ideas, I love fairy tale ideas done in a way that really sort of breaks the obvious. And the way that they use the goblin market here is just absolute genius. I'm loving this. Rich Dorick, I believe, he is one of the writers. Yeah. Written by Rich Dorick, illustrated by Brett Barkley, colored by Jules Rivera. All of these people have done an amazing job on this book, and I highly recommend it. Especially if you like urban fantasy, especially if you like sort of fairy tale stories, you're going to love this. This was really well done. Alright, so let's see what the winner is this week. Red Sonja, number 1. Alright, this is a number 1 because Marguerite Bennett is taking over from Gail Simone in the writing department on this. It's drawn by Aneki. I don't know this person nor why they only use one word for their names, but I will do some research after this. It's also colored by Jorge Sutil. As per usual, I apologize for my miserable name pronunciation. Alright, so this is a new direction for Red Sonja, but not an unwelcome one. I liked Gail Simone's run, and I liked the way that Sonja is very much focused on her physical, instinctual needs. She's about sex and eating and violence and all of that sort of stuff. This poses a bit more of a traditional fantasy Sonja. She has a little bit more in the way of social graces. She is a little bit more strictly loyal to her kingdom. But that does not take away from her as a character, nor does it represent such a drastic change of personality as to be unrecognizable. This is still the Sonja that we have been reading for a couple of years now. And it even references some of the other books that were written by different people, specifically Queen Sonja and Sonja the She-Devil. It references both of them in sort of oblique ways, and it works out ultimately. But I love the way this is doing it. Marguerite Bennett, as a writer, has been jumping onto my radar like nobody's business because she's taking over for a lot of my favorite writers. She's taking over for Gail Simone on Red Sonja. She's taking over for Kieran Gillen writing Angela for Marvel. She has just been jumping all over the place. Her original book, Insects, was fantastic. Really, really clever. Really well plotted. So, seeing her take on Red Sonja, such an established property for, what is it, Dynamite? Yeah, Dynamite owns Red Sonja, has been really a treat. I am loving this book. I cannot wait for the next one. It is on my pull list at my local comic book store. And I highly recommend that it be on yours too. Seriously, if you like the sort of Conan Sonja high fantasy world, this is the book for you. You will not be disappointed in the new direction that it's going. Alright. So, that's it for this week. Sorry I haven't been around lately. I went on vacation and I just had to have a medical procedure done and all sorts of other stuff, but I'm back. I'm working on stuff. Also, I didn't do an unboxing this month because my comics were stolen out of the box in transit by a postal employee, most likely. So I got an empty box. Yeah, that was fun. But everything will be coming back in. I'm writing new scripts. I am going to be recording new things this week. It's all very exciting, and I can't wait to share it with all of you. Thank you so much for watching. It is always a pleasure. Anyway, go out to your local comic book shop, get some new books. I don't know what your opinion's going to be, but these were initially mine. Take care.